Hello there guys, I am the CHALL, your sports channel, hang on, I'm late with the hat, I am the Golden State Warrior of football and the slam dunking knowledge master of basketball in the UK, and welcome to this video. Now this is the first of, get this, 5 prediction videos from the football sport. Now this is of course concentrating on the 5 top English leagues, the Premier League, the Championship, League 1, League 2 and the Vanarama National League. So I'm going to be releasing all those prediction videos before the season starts on separate days, so it'll be, you know, a day or an upload, shall we say. And yeah, very exciting this one, because we're going to start off with the Premier League, the top division, the top dogs of English football. Now we're going to be going through each and every team, looking at their manager, looking at the signings they've made so far, the outs they've sold so far, and predict a position from there. So before we get started guys, make sure you like the video if you've loved it, comment down below your thoughts, subscribe to the channel, click the notification bell so you never miss a YouTube video. If you want to subscribe to more of my social medias, my other channel, Coast to Chall, the theme park journalism channel, is in the description down below, along with my Instagram, my Snapchat, my Twitter and my brand new TikTok. And for now guys, let's get into talking about my 2020-2021 Premier League predictions, starting off with the mighty Gunners. So first up, it is Arsenal. Now of course, in the 1920 season they finished up in 8th place in the Premier League, but they won the FA Cup, came 4th in the EFL Cup and knocked out in the round of 32, of course we all know that story, in the Europa League. Now for this season, they are managed by Mikel Arteta. Now I do have to say that all the transfers in and out that I'm about to read out will of course change. There will be more ins and outs around the Premier League before the season starts, but this is just right at the time of recording. So before anyone comments saying, no, there's been another signing, this is just at the time of recording, so calm down. Now, in terms of at Arsenal this season, they've made the permanent moves of Pablo Mari for £7.2 million and Cedric Suarez from Southampton on a free transfer. They've been made permanent. They were formerly loan deals. Now also for the first team, they brought in Willian on a free transfer from Chelsea, and they've brought in Gabriel on a £23.1 million fee reportedly from French club Lille. Now as well as that, for the under-23s, they brought in George Lewis from Fram Larvik in Norway on a free transfer, Tim Akinola on a free from Huddersfield, and of course Jonathan Dinzei from the North London rivals Tottenham Hotspur on a free transfer. And then for the academy, below the under-23s, you got Salah Oulad Emhand on a free transfer from Feyenoord. And in terms of going out, well, from the first team, there's only one major out, and that is of course the termination of Hendrik Mkhitaryan's contract and going to the first team of Roma permanently. And of course they've loaned out Mavropanos to Stuttgart, Medley to Gillingham, Coyle to Gillingham, Osei Tutu to Cardiff, Shea to Coventry, Matt Smith to Swindon, Zach Swanson to MVV Maastricht in the Dutch League, and they've loaned in Dani Ceballos until the end of this season. So they've got another loan deal for Ceballos in there. Now, of course, one of the big things in terms of squad information with the club is the fact that, of course, Leno's back from injury. We still don't know the contract situation of Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang, but I do believe that he will probably sign if he hasn't signed already. And yeah, I definitely think that Arsenal's going to have a decent season. Now, they finished 8th the previous season, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to predict that Arsenal are going to be finishing 4th place. I think Arsenal are going to finish in the top 4. And the reason why I think that is they've got some great signings in already. I'm sure they're going to bring in some more signings, whether that's Thomas Partey, whether it's you know, Felipe Anderson, he's been linked, whether Coutinho decides to come in at last minute, I don't know. But, you know, I think there is still 1 or 2 signings maybe on the horizon. But I think the main thing with Arsenal really is keeping Aubameyang and, you know, keeping all the rest of their best talent. I think this is going to be a good season for Arsenal, because Mikel Arteta's got them running like absolute clockwork at the minute. You know, they've won titles, the FA Cup and the Community Shield on penalties in the Community Shield, but of course winning the FA Cup against Liverpool in Chelsea, sorry, in their one of their worst Premier League seasons in history, one of their first seasons in the league. So and they still won trophies over their North London rivals. And of course, this season is the 29th season in the Premier League, the 104th overall season in the top flight, and the 101st consecutive season in the top flight of English football. So, they are going to be, of course, in the Europa League as well. So, of course, Arsenal will have, once again, a packed schedule, but I've got absolutely no doubt whatsoever that they can achieve great things. So that is why I'm predicting a 4th place finish. So next up, Aston Villa. Now, the previous season they finished 17th, and of course that is their relegation survival at the hands of at the expense of Bournemouth and Watford. They got a nice healthy draw with West Ham on the final day to stay up. And under the management of Dean Smith, have Aston Villa made recruitment to say they're going to stay up? I don't think so. I've got a feeling, as you can already see on your screen, I've got Aston Villa to be finishing in a very unhealthy 18th. I think they are going to go down this season. It was kind of a toss-up between Aston Villa and another club, which I'll talk about towards the end of the predictions. But I think that Aston Villa are doomed, in my opinion. I think that Aston Villa will just go down. I think it will be a close one again this year. I mean, looking at the transfers they brought in some good players for the youth, like Ruben Shakepoke from Norwich, Ben Christine from Exeter, who's a good young midfielder for nearly £500,000. Sil Swinkles from Vitesse on a free transfer. Aaron O'Reilly from St Patrick's Athletic, so good reservist signing there for the academy in there. But the main signing recently has been Matty Cash for 14 million from Nottingham Forest. But the sellings of players like Chester to Stoke, Baston to Legantes, Andre Green being released. Obviously James Breed's gone to Luton Town. They've loaned out Jack Clark, one of their reservists, to Yeovil as well, just a little side note. But there's more transfers that I could talk about in terms of the academy and under-23 ones. But I think even if you've brought in Matty Cash, I still don't think Aston Villa have enough. Now, of course, Jack Grealish could be their saviour again, but I've got a bad feeling that he won't be. So that's why I'm going with Aston Villa going down in 18th place. Like I said, I think it'll be a close relegation battle, but I think that it just won't be enough for Aston Villa this particular season. Next up, Brighton Hove Albion. First season, the previous season, finished in 15th under Graham Potter. Showed some exciting signs, not going to lie. Neil Maupay, or as Arsenal fans like to call him, a cheat. I hope Brighton get relegated. Shout out to Ty from AFTV there. I don't think Brighton will get relegated, Ty, this season, but what I do think they will do is I think they'll have a healthy mid-table finish. So my prediction for this season, in my opinion, is I think Brighton are going to be finishing a nice, healthy 15th. I think it will be the same finish as the previous season. I think that nothing will change from the position, but I think the football will generally improve in places where it needed to improve. In terms of highlight signings, I mean, Jensen Weir, a good youth player from Wigan for 500k, Adam Lallana from Liverpool on a free transfer, and a veteran defender like Joel Veltman from Ajax for under £1 million. I mean, come on, that's a great transfer. They've loaned out loads of people, of course, Taylor Richards to my home club, Doncaster Rovers, Percy Tau to Anderlecht, loads of other youth players and backup players. Glenn Murray has been loaned out to Watford, Shane Duffy's been loaned out to Scottish champion Celtic. Obviously they've sold some players. Knockhart's gone to Fulham permanently, Shalotto's been released, Kyle's been released, Montoya's gone to Real Betis, Moy's gone to China to play in Shanghai SIPG, and just recently, in fact, David Button is going for £500,000 to West Bromwich Albion, a current Premier League side. So, but they've still got some decent players. They've got Ryan, they've got Ben White, who was under a lot of bidding wars from Leeds United, so they're very happy to keep him and sign a new deal. Lewis Dunk, the captain, of course, he's still there. Bissouma, I felt he showed signs at times this past season. Maupay, of course, goal threat. Trossard, Gross. I could name loads of players. I mean, March is Izquierdo. I think that they'll get more game time hopefully down the line. But, you know, this is the second full season under Graham Potter management, and I think that Graham Potter has shown them a nice attacking style. So I think that it's going to be another decent season for Brighton. Nothing too troubling this particular season. Just a nice, healthy mid-table finish. Nothing to really worry about, in my opinion. Next up, Burnley. Now they finished 10th the previous season under their current manager, Sean Dyche, who, let's be perfectly honest, he's been Burnley manager since 2012. We're getting closer and closer to his 10th year as Burnley manager. And I'm not going to lie to you guys, there's been a lot of discussion over recent years about, you know, is Sean Dyche doing enough for this team? Is 10th or just outside the top 10 good enough for Burnley's progression? Should they do better than that? And my personal opinion is, I think that Sean Dyche and Burnley have done fantastically well this past season. And I think they're going to do well once again. So my sort of prediction here with Burnley is I think they're going to be finishing a lovely 9th position. Now, you guys are probably thinking, what? Why do you think that they're going to finish higher than the previous season? Well, I think they're going to finish higher than the previous season because I think they're going to get their shape together, they're going to get their team together, they're going to keep that compact defensive shape that they've shown at most times this season, well, past season, and I think that Burnley are going to be a strong defensive showing again this season. I think that Burnley have got loads of stuff to share, and I think that they've got a lot of stuff. Now, they have brought in a lot of, you know, under 23s, academy players. I mean, the only highlight really was Will Norris from Wolves, who's a goalkeeper, so he'd be good for the under 23s. They've loaned out Ben Gibson to Norwich. They've sold players, Joe Hart to Tottenham. Did you see the blunder against Watford in pre-season? Jeff Hendrick, of course, made the permanent deal to Newcastle after rejecting a contract. Lennon's gone to Kayserispor in the Turkish Premiership. I believe there are in the Turkish Premiership. So, you know, I think that even though they've sold a couple of their top talent that haven't really, you know, played, I think that the most important thing is not just selling and bringing in talent, it's keeping your best talent. And that's what the club's done. They've kept the big ones. They've kept Pope, they've kept Cork, Tarkowski, despite some bid wars going on at the minute. You know, at the time of recording, they've still got players like Gudmundsson, Brownhill, Wood, McNeil, you know, Jay Rodriguez, you know, Vidra could be an underdog again this season. I think that Burnley have kept most, you know, apart from, of course, you know, the big ones like Hart and Lennon going out to Tottenham and Kayserispor, and obviously, you know, Jeff Hendrick going to Newcastle's a big one. But I think that Burnley are just one of those clubs that seems to keep their defensive shape, and I think that, you know, Burnley definitely are one to watch this season for potentially challenging for Europa League places, but I think just falling off at the final hurdle. But I think that 9th place is a good progressive finish for Burnley, and it'll lead very happily into what I think could be a possible fight for a European place in Sean Dyche's 10th year the next season. So, got to watch out for Burnley because they've got a strong defensive shape, and I've got no doubt that they can improve. Next up, Chelsea, the big one. Frank Lampard's Chelsea under the ownership of Roman Abramovich. And they came 4th last season. And I think you guys have an idea about what I'm going to say right now. I think we found our champions this season. Now, Liverpool fans can come at me all they want and say, why are you saying that Chelsea's going to win the league? What about Liverpool? I'll talk about why Chelsea's going to win the league. Look at the players they brought in. Hakim Ziyech, £33.4 million from Ajax. Timo Werner, nearly £50 million from Leipzig. Chilwell, £45.1 million from Leicester. Malang Sarr, Nice, good young centre-back, free transfer. Thiago Silva, experienced PSG centre-back, free transfer. Kai Havertz, £72 million from Bayern Leverkusen. Who did they sell? Morata's gone permanently to Atletico Madrid for 50 million. That was all done in this pre-season. Nathan to Atletico Mineiro in Brazil for 2.7. That's something to note. Pedro's gone for free to Roma. Pasalic has gone to Atalanta for 13.5 million. Willian, of course, free to Arsenal. So you look at the players they've sold, of course. Willian, big miss, I'm sure. Good squad player to have. Pedro, he's going to be a bit of a miss. Obviously, Morata didn't really show much. He was a bit of a flop signing for Chelsea, so I'm kind of glad he's made the move and, delayed the inevitable. Obviously, some of their youngsters, like Broho, we know Donny was interested in potentially loaning him in. Armando Broha's gone for free, shall we say, to Vitesse. Jamal Blackman to Rotherham. It's just, I think that even though they've loaned out a few of their youngsters, they've sold a couple of players, they brought in a lot of talent. Now, of course, the flip side, because you have to have a look at both sides of it, I think that if they don't finish first or second this year, then what was the point in spending all that money? Because it's an absolute waste. I say first or second. I think if they don't get first, then they're going to be in trouble. Obviously, yes, it is a tight league, so if they lose it by a couple of points on the last day, then fair enough. Then, there's nothing much they can do. But if you're behind by 10 points with a couple of games to go, like many teams were behind by a hell of points last season to Liverpool. So if teams like Man City and Chelsea and that are going to be behind to Liverpool again, or Liverpool and Chelsea are going to be behind to Man City again by a number of points with only a couple of games to go, then you've got to look and say, what was the point in spending money? Yes, it's first season nerves, but they're professional players. They should settle in all right. But I've got absolutely no doubt, and I'm looking at this from the outside, I think Lampard's got a good squad together. And, I said this online, I think, at some point a few months ago. And, people may laugh at this statement, but I'm going to do this statement, then come back to me in a couple of years' time and look at this video and think, wow, he said that. I think Frank Lampard is Chelsea's Sir Alex Ferguson. Now, the way I say that, and you might be right to, go in the comments and say why you're saying that, the reason why I say he's Chelsea's Alex Ferguson, Sir Alex Ferguson, is the fact that Lampard has got a squad and a youth setup that's going to last him 10, 15, 20 years as a Chelsea manager. Mourinho came in for a couple of years during those early days when he came in first time, left, disagreements, came back a few years ago, disagreements again after winning the title, came back for a couple of years and then went out, joined Man U, went out, Tottenham, of course, currently their manager. But Lampard, compared to him and Mourinho, Lampard is the kind of guy that will work with the youth setup, work with the club for the next 15, 20 years. And that's why I say he's Chelsea's Sir Alex Ferguson. The fact that we're seeing the beginning, potentially, of a long-durational managerial era, like a brand new modern generation long-term manager era, where the likes of Ferguson and Wenger retired and went on and did different things. Then we had the rotational stuff for a while. Obviously, Chelsea went through that rotational period after Mourinho left the first time round, with managers like Ancelotti, Avram Grant, Luis Felipe Scolari, if you can remember that one. And the reason why I say this is a brand new, modern, long-term generation managerial era is the fact that Ferguson and Wenger went on to do different things. There was a merry-go-round around the top teams, and now Chelsea have got their long-term manager in Lampard, Arsenal have got their long-term manager in Arteta, and Man United potentially have their long-term manager in Ole Gunnar Solskjaer. So, obviously Klopp, we know, has had experience in Europe, so he doesn't technically fall into this category, but former players like your Lampard, your Solskjaer, your Arteta, they're like the new long-term generational era for managers. So, Chelsea, Arsenal and Man U, if they can get their stuff together, they can get their, things together, I think they're the three teams that are going to have long-term managers. I think the longest manager in the Premier League at the minute is Sean Dyche at Burnley. So, I think that, I think once Sean Dyche has had its time, in about 10, 15 years' time maybe, I'm not going to say that as a specific timeline, but I'm sure Sean Dyche will last 10, 15 years. But in terms of the next generation, I think the next 10, 15, 20-year managers are going to be the likes of Lampard, Arteta and Solskjaer. So that's why I call Lampard Chelsea's Sir Alex Ferguson. He's a long-term, 15-20 year manager that will stick with a club for that period of time, and he'll try and get trophy after trophy. You never know, this could be where Man United were when they won back-to-back 3-time Premier League championships. This could be Chelsea's glory years for the modern generation. We don't know, but potentially, from the signings and from the manager's standpoint and how he's backed by the club, we could be looking at Chelsea's glory days for the modern era. So that's why I think Chelsea will win the league. I mean, you know, feel free to comment down below if you think I'm wrong. Obviously, I'll listen to every opinion. But that's just my personal opinion. I think Chelsea are the team. Even though Liverpool are defending a crown, I think Chelsea could be one of the teams to beat this season. After that long discussion, let's move into Crystal Palace. So, of course, the previous season, under Roy Hodgson, finishing a healthy 14th mid-table. And you know what? I think because the 14th spot hasn't been taken already, I'm going to go with that prediction again. I think Palace, again, there won't be digression. There won't be much progression. I think it'll just be another healthy 14th place finish. Now, of course, looking at Crystal Palace's ins and outs, in terms of the more noticeable ones, there are two big noticeable ones. Free transfer, Nathan Ferguson from West Brom. That's a big one to look forward to because he's a young player. He's got a lot to learn, but I think he could grow into the Crystal Palace squad. And then you look at the £16 million QPR cam, Eberechi Eze. What a signing the Palace team have. Now you've got more quality to build around the likes of Wilfried Zaha and players like that. In terms of notable outs, of course, Jason Lokilo is a big one. He joined, of course, my club, up the Rovers, Donny Rovers. That's one of the more noticeable outs. Dion Curtis Henry's been released, and you know, there's another unattached youngster called Joe Tupper who's joined Hamilton Waterlooville, but there's a couple of more outs from the academy that are not noticeable. But Ferguson and Eze in, young defender, young cam. I think Palace are building for the future here, and I think we're going to get a higher finish than 14th the next season, in my opinion. But I think for this particular season, I think Palace won't digress, they won't progress as much, but I think that they will show signs of improvement and progression for years to come, in my opinion. And I think Roy Hodgson could be the man to do it, but if not, if they decide to move him on at the end of this season, then by 2021 we could see a new manager to help take Palace forward into better finishes, maybe. And maybe Palace can challenge for Europe, because I think they've got some good talent. They've got Wilfried Zaha, that's noticeable, but another noticeable talent is, of course, Luka Milivojevic, who is a great CDM, very underrated and overlooked, in my opinion, because I think that he shows he's the backbone of a midfield. He's the true backbone, experienced backbone of a midfield, and I think, you know, he came out with comments months ago and said he wants to challenge for Europe. I think it was towards the end of this past season. So I think Palace can challenge for Europe in the future, but maybe not this next season. Next up, Everton. And this is, of course, another season at Goodison Park. I think this is probably the last of a couple of seasons at Goodison Park. Of course, under the management of Carlo Ancelotti, they finished 12th the previous campaign. And you know what? I'm going to get Everton to finish higher than 12th. I think Everton will finish higher than 12th. Not by much, though. I'm going to give them a 10th place finish. Now, the reason why I give them a 10th place finish is because I think they're going to really improve, but I think it's going to take a while for these signings to sort of settle in. And I think that Everton will get into the Europa League and possibly even the Champions League. Do not get me wrong. But I think this season maybe they'll just miss out, along with, you know, the likes of Burnley. I think Burnley and Everton could just miss out on Europe by the last couple of games. I think it will be close. Of course, they brought in Niels and Cuckoo on a free transfer from Marseille for the first team. And of course, they've made the signing, £22 million. Allen from Napoli, and of course this is recording before the signing is potentially made, but if it has been made, then obviously by the time you've seen this prediction you could see the signing of James Rodriguez from Real Madrid. If it hasn't been made yet, then fair enough, but I think it is going to happen in the next 48 hours from this video if it hasn't been made already. I think James Rodriguez is going to be an Everton player as well, and I think they're going to be building a big squad for next season. In terms of the outs, some noticeable outs, of course, Alex Denny, the young player, the young CDM, gone to Salford, Morgan Feeney to Sunderland, Fraser Hornby for £1.8 million to French side Stade de Reims, and I think he's the next young British player to, you know, get the European treatment and come back a multi-million pounder. Morgan Schneiderlin's gone to Nice. Leighton Baines has retired. That's a big shame. I've always loved seeing Leighton Baines play in the old days of the Barclays Premier League. Baines was such a great player, so good luck in your future endeavours, Leighton Baines. You're a great guy and a great player. Kieran Dowell gone to Norwich for an undisclosed fee. Scatlenberg's gone back to Dutch to play with Ajax, the Dutch champions, of course. And there's some youth academy outs as well, but of course the main outs there have been the likes of, you know, Hornby, Niasse being released, Martina being released, Schneiderlin going, Baines retiring, Dowell going, Schellenberg going, and the likes of, you know, Feeney and Denny and Ali Cho to Angers from the academy. Folds and Garber, you know, they've gone released as well. So I think Ancelotti's got a decent squad on his hands. I think that it's a squad to build on. And yeah, I think that Everton will get a nice 10th place finish. Like I said, nothing to digress from the previous season, but I think that it's something they could progress with in future seasons, especially as we get closer and closer to the opening of the new stadium in a couple of years' time, the Bromley Moor Dock Stadium. So I can't wait to see when that's going to be completed, because the concept art for it looks incredible, and I shared that with an earlier video months ago. So go and check that one out. But very, very exciting. Of course, Goodison Park will be like a legacy park, I guess it is. So good way to keep the memories alive. Next up, it's Fulham. Now, of course, they were promoted to the Premier League in a very, very tight victory against Brentford in the playoff final at Wembley just a couple of months ago. And Scott Parker's side returned to the Premier League, you know, at the first time of asking. But I'm sorry, Fulham fans, I've got a very bad prediction on my hands for you guys. I think it's going to be a 19th place finish. I think Fulham will go straight back down again. Now, don't get me wrong, they've made some very good signings. They've loaned in Mario Lemina from Southampton. They brought in Knockaert from Brighton, Robinson from Wigan, who's a very underrated fullback in my opinion, Harrison Reed from Southampton, a couple of, you know, youth players been brought in as well, Ziad Larkech from PSG, Kieran Bowie from Wraith Rovers. They've loaned out Fossey to Shrewsbury, Taylor Crosdale to Colchester, Mawson, he's gone to Bristol City. They've sold a couple of players, nothing really noticeable, no disrespect, but nothing really noticeable. Della Torre gone to Hercules Almelo, Magnus Norman to Carlisle, both for free. Matt O'Reilly's been rejected the contract, so he's gone. Drame's gone to Leeds United for 400,000. You know, a couple of other players gone as well. So, you know, in terms of major transfers, look at the likes of Knockaert, Robinson, Reed and Lemina coming into the club, and just a couple of youth loan outs a lot and sell outs, along with Mawson being loaned out to Bristol, which is a big one for the defensive options. But you know, Fulham have got a decent squad to fight with. Obviously, they've still got the likes of Mitrovic, Captain Kearney, he can show some stuff again. Obviously, Knockaert's going to be a good new signing for the club. Caballero, Harrison Reed, Fabry in goal, Seri. I know Seri and Zambo and Gisa have got offers being listened to about those two, so if they do go, then I think it'll be a big hindrance to Fulham's midfield and a big digression. Obviously, Cyrus Christie's a good experienced defender. Joe Bryan, Josh Onomar, a former Tottenham youngster. Lamarchand, a good European defender. So it is going to be tough for Fulham this season. I do think they will go down, but maybe it could be a fight with Aston Villa and a couple of other teams going towards the end of the day again. You'll know what team I'm going to put at the bottom of the table when it comes to it, but I think the other two relegation places could be fought on the final day again this season, so we will have to see with that one. This next prediction is Leeds United, another promoted team under the management of Marcelo Bielsa, and the chairman, of course, is Andrea Radrizzani, I think that's how it's pronounced. Now, in terms of their position, of course, they're championship champions. You might laugh at this one, but I think that Leeds are going to finish in 8th place. I think they're going to finish just above Burnley. Now, the reason why I haven't got them in a proper Europa League place is because they're going to do well, but fall at the final hurdle. This is a tough one. I'm not going to lie, this is a tough one. Because, Leeds United, with the signings they've made some people permanent, like the goalkeeper Meslier. They've got Joe Geldhart in, a good youngster from Wigan again. Charlie Allen from Linfield, a good midfielder there. Rodrigo, 26 million from Valencia, a good experienced forward there. Robin Koch from Freiburg, a good defender. They've loaned in Jack Harrison from Man City. They've loaned out a couple of people, and the only player they have sold is Josh Veer-Shergill, that's how it's pronounced, and that's for a free transfer to non-league Solihull Moors in the National League. So, not the most noteworthy of out, but, apart from that, it's just in. And Leeds United have been continuously adding to their squad, so, you've got a big situation on your hands with Leeds United. I think they're going to be a big team this season, but maybe, like Burnley, like Everton, just miss out on that place in Europe. Now, one of the places in the Europa League I think will be going their way is our next team, and that is Leicester City. Now, Leicester City, under the management of Brendan Rodgers, I think they're going to be finishing a very healthy 5th place. I think it is going to be a 5th place finish for Leicester City. I think they're going to outshine everyone again. I think they're going to be one of the teams to watch in the European places. They've brought in a good fullback to replace Ben Chilwell, Timothy Castagne from Atalanta for £21 million. That's the only major in for the club. They've loaned out Daniel Iverson, their youth Danish goalkeeper, to Leuven in Belgium. They've sold some people as well, don't forget. They've sold Chilwell. They've sold Kaputska to Legia Warsaw. They've released Andy King, George Thomas to QPR, Ryan Loft to Leeds 2 Scunthorpe, Calvin Bassey to Rangers on a free transfer is an interesting one for the Rangers fans. But the major in, of course, being Timothy Castagne, and that will be, he's a right back and a left back, so he's versatile in his position, and he can be the replacement for Ben Chilwell. Now, this is a big season for Leicester, because you've got to remember, when they won the Premier League, the same squad came together, but of course, by that squad, they sold Kante to Chelsea, and they made some other sales as well, and the team didn't end up doing very well. Ranieri got the sack. They brought in Shakespeare on a temporary, and of course in the past couple of years they've had managers like Claude Puel. So when Brendan Rodgers came in and got that squad together, I think it was just a case of fixing the problems which was left by exiting players from their title-winning squad. And I think Leicester are genuinely building a brand new title-winning squad. And most of the players, most of the stars from the previous title win are still there. Not all of them, of course. The likes of Mahrez are gone, Okazaki's gone, Ulloa is gone, Drinkwater's gone. But the stars like Vardy, Schmeichel, they're still there. And of course, they're trying to bring in new players to build a title-winning squad. Tielemans, that came in a couple of seasons ago. Obviously, Castagna this season. So, Leicester are trying to rebuild for another title-winning squad. And with a manager like Brendan Rodgers, I generally think Leicester could win the title in the next few years. I think that Leicester could surprise us all again. And, I think once again, like the first title win, we'll never see it coming. And I think that Leicester could challenge again for the title. So, the next couple of years for me is all about rebuilding completely. And just keep rebuilding that squad. Keep getting up to title-winning quality. Get that passion in again. And just go again, because I think Leicester really are one of the top dogs in the league now. I think absolutely nobody can disrespect Leicester City right now, because they're on the rise and the rise and the rise. And just a few years ago, they were playing in League One. And they're a title-winning squad a few years down the line. I mean, come on. How could you not be impressed with that? Next up is Liverpool, the current defending Premier League champions, and don't worry, Liverpool fans, you're close to the top spot, but not quite the top spot. I've got you guys in 2nd place. Now, let's get over Liverpool's business. Now, of course, as we all know, Liverpool, under arguably the greatest Liverpool manager in the history of the club. Arguably the greatest manager in the history of Liverpool Football Club. Of course, Jurgen Klopp. One of the big problems with me about Jurgen Klopp is the fact that the bench needs to be just as strong as the first team. It needs to be stronger, especially if players go out. Obviously, Lallana's gone, Lovren's gone to Zenit, and I believe he won a title in Russia as soon as he got there. He won 2 titles in the same month or something like that. So good on Dejan Lovren, good thinking there. Ajari has gone to Reading for £3 million. Lonergan's been released. And the only signing they brought in is a backup left-back, Kostas Semikas, I think that's how it's pronounced, for nearly £12 million from Olympiacos. So they've kept their first teamers. They've got Alisson, Adrian as a backup goalkeeper. Karius wants to fight for his place. You've got other players in there from the previous squad. Alexander-Arnold, Virgil van Dijk, Gomez. Neco Williams is going to fight for a place this year as a youth. Curtis Jones is going to be a good youth player to fight. Harry Wilson, Harvey Elliott. They've got some good young players. I mean, Origi, Minamino, Salah, Mane, Firmino. There's a lot of, pretty much nearly all their first team squad apart, bar a couple of players, Lallana and Lovren. So, what do I think is different from Liverpool the previous season when they won the league by a number of points to this next season? And I think the reason is, and you've seen this pattern a lot of times in recent years, title-winning squads will hardly invest in the summer and they'll lose their title reign and maybe lose their manager. The big thing for Klopp is, can he do it a second season? And my answer is no, based on recent patterns. You've got to look back to the times of Roberto Mancini winning the first title in 40 years with Man City. He won that league, they didn't invest in more in the next summer, and then he ended up losing the title by a good number of points, and he ended up getting the sack and replaced by Pellegrini. Pellegrini won the league. And then the next season they didn't really recover, and Pellegrini ended up getting replaced by Pep Guardiola. Pep Guardiola won back-to-back Premier League titles. They've done it before. But then you look at the Liverpool season, the previous season just gone, and Pep, fell at the wayside because of the injuries to the defence mainly. So I think that, for Klopp, you've got to do enough to keep your title. And based on patterns, just a backup left-back is not enough for me. They've got to bring in more talent to strengthen that bench, to strengthen that reserves, to give the first team players more competition. Because I think just a backup left back, in my opinion, yes, they're a great squad, but in my opinion, it's still not enough, in my opinion. So I think that Liverpool do need to strengthen with a couple more signings. I'm sure Thiago could be on the way to Liverpool, as well as a couple of other players, but I don't know. I just think that Liverpool might just fall by the wayside by a few points. It will be a close title race this season, though. I don't think it will be a complete walkover for Chelsea. I think it will be a close one between Chelsea and Liverpool. And another title contender, the third title contender this season, and that is Manchester City. Now, of course, Manchester City, Pep Guardiola, I think you guys know where I'm going to place this team. I'm going to place them in 13th. Third place. Don't worry, I didn't get that wrong. Just. So that pretty much completes the top four. Chelsea, Liverpool, Man City and Arsenal, which, to be fair, I don't mind that top four. I'm going to keep it the way it is. Looking at Pep Guardiola's signings, I mean, they brought in some good young players. Josh Adam for the academy from Celtic. Jan Couto from Curitiba, who's a good, highly rated Brazilian. Pablo Moreno for $9 million from Juventus. Issa Kabore from McKellen. Mickey van Sass from Utrecht in Holland. In terms of the first team, they brought in Ferran Torres for nearly 21 million from Valencia, and for 40 million, Nathan Ake from Barcelona, who in my opinion deserved the Premier League move. Now, Torres and Ake, new defender, that'll help. Ferran Torres gives competition to the likes of Bernardo Silva on the right position, the right wing. In terms of sells, some noticeable sells, of course, Sane's the big one, 55 million to Bayern Munich. Claudio Bravo, gone to Real Betis. David Silva, he's gone to Real Sociedad after many, many years' service with the club. Scott Carson's been loaned in again till the end of the season, which is an interesting one. Good backup keeper there. Now, of course, they've kept the big stars. Sterling, Gundogan, Jesus, Aguero, Laporte when he gets back from injury, De Bruyne, obviously Mendy, Mahrez. There's some big stars in there. Can City do it again? I think they'll just fall again. I think it will be defensive frailties again. Even though Ake's in there, I don't think that that'll just be enough. I think that City will cause defensive mistakes for themselves again this season. I hope they don't, for City's sakes, for City fans' sakes, but I've got a feeling they might. So, you know, looking at it on a basis, I think that it'll be a close title race between them, Liverpool and Chelsea, but I think the City may, again, like Liverpool, just fall to the wayside last few games. Next up, we look at the other of the three young, up-and-coming, long-term managers that I spoke about. We talked about Lampard's side, Arteta's side, and now we have to speak about Ole Gunnar Solskjaer's Manchester United. And again, this has been a tough one in my opinion, but I'm going to go with a 6th place finish for Manchester United, even though they've made a good signing in, and you know what I'm going to say, of course, Donny van der Beek, the only signing of the summer, undisclosed fee from Ajax. They've sold players as well, don't forget, some players like Borthwick Jackson, Hamilton, Mitchell, some of the, you know, the youth academy players. Angel Gomez, of course, released. You know, we know about him going to Lille and then being loaned out to a Portuguese side. Alexis Sanchez, he came out and said stuff about Man U recently. You know, fair enough, to be honest. He's gone to Inter Milan on a permanent deal. We've loaned out Chong to Werder Bremen, Traore, Aliou Traore to Chan, Kovar to Swindon, Joel Pereira to Huddersfield. So looking at the squad, it's still a strong squad. You've got De Gea, Lindelof, Bailly, Jones. Maguire's still captain. I don't know why he got arrested. I think the captain's armband should be on someone else and take the heat off Maguire for a bit. Still got what many people would say is, you know, not the best players in the world. I think many people would like to see the sales of, you know, different players like, I think many people want to see Lingard gone, many people want to see Mata gone, Jones go. There's a few players that people want to see go to different clubs, but they just won't do it. And, you know, I think looking on the basis of it, I think that Man U do need to sign Sancho. I think it's an absolute must. They need to bring in Sancho. Absolutely 100% need to bring in Sancho or Douglas Costa if they don't want to spend the money on Sancho. And looking at the defensive options, they need to bring in Upamecano. At the time of recording this, they've only made the signing of Van der Beek, but they need to sign Sancho. They need to sign Upamecano. They need to bring in more than just one signing, because one signing isn't going to solve a whole season's worth of problems, and that's just me being perfectly honest. So I think Man U will finish just outside the Champions League in the Europa League places with Leicester, and yeah, I think that this is not going to be a good season for Man United. I think it will be a digression, but I think if the board aren't going to back Ole properly and just bring in one player, then Ole's going to be the scapegoat for the board's mistakes, in my opinion, and I think that's just me being brutally honest. Next up, it is Newcastle United, still under the dire ownership of Mike Ashley and under the management again for the second year of Steve Bruce. And this one, I've got to give it to Newcastle. I think you're going to be in a relegation battle this year despite the signings recently. I'm going to predict a 16th place. I think that Newcastle United are just not going to be in it this season. I think that despite them making some good signings, I'm not going to lie, they're making some good signings. Ryan Fraser's coming on a free. Callum Wilson for 20 million from Bournemouth. We know that by the time you watch this video, probably Jamal Lewis is either on his way or is signed for the club for about 13.5 million from Norwich. Jeff Hendrick from Burnley. Mark Gillespie from Motherwell, and of course a nice under-23 signing from Liverpool and Niall Brockwell. You know, they've made those signings, but, you know, looking at the basis of it, I think that they could, I still think the off-field problems are going to affect them, and I think that Wilson's a good goal threat, Fraser's a good winger, Jamal Lewis is a good left-back, and Jeff Hendrick's a good midfielder overall, but I think Newcastle, again, are just going to get hit by other problems, and I think that, you know, that's going to not really help Steve Bruce in any way, shape or form. You know, Lee Charlesley's backed him with the signing of Wilson, Fraser and Lewis, but I think that, you know, looking at it on a basic principle, I think that Newcastle's off-field problems and the ownership situation is going to affect them again, and I think that it's going to affect the club. So, not as bad as another club, which I'll talk about later on, but I think that Newcastle will be in a relegation battle. But you know, again, like the title race, last couple of games, they'll be alright. I think that Newcastle will just survive there by the last couple of games. Next up, Sheffield United. And this one, again, I think it's going to be a miss out of Europe. I think I'm going to predict a 7th place finish for Sheffield United this season. So, looking at the basis of it, I think that Sheffield United will be in the hunt for Europe, but I think they'll just fall by the wayside again last couple of games. But I'm not going to say they haven't got a squad capable of doing it, because they've got a great squad. They've got Aaron Ramsdale, which is a noticeable signing from Bournemouth on an undisclosed fee. Obviously, Wes Fotheringham from Rangers on a free transfer. Good backup goalkeeper, in my opinion. They've sold some players. Leon Clark's gone. Freeman's gone. Duffy's gone to Fleetwood. Gribbin's gone to Barrow. Hennigan's been released. Ricky Holmes has retired. Nathan Thomas has gone. Ravel Morrison's gone. Jake Young to Forest Green on a free transfer. There's a couple of noticeable ones there, like, you know, bench players, backup players. But in terms of the first team squad, they pretty much kept them, so Sheffield will be in a strong fight, in my opinion. Sheffield plays a nice brand of football, and then, you know, this past season, ever since the lockdown happened, and then we got back to Project Restart the past season, Sheffield United, you know, just weren't at the races in many games, and it didn't help with the Aston Villa goal. I think technology is blamed for that, and it definitely is blamed for that. And, you know, I think the technology should have worked a bit better than that, and I think there should be more technology to, you know, to help with those kind of situations when the goalkeeper decides to cheat the technology. Because, Nyland, if you're watching this video, you're a great guy, I'm sure, but you did cheat the technology, even if you didn't mean to. I think that Sheffield were quite hard done by some of those moments, but I think, again, you know, some of it is down to themselves. They did fall away in the Project Restart, and I think that hopefully this season they'll be up for the fight 100%, not just, you know, part way there. And, yeah, hopefully Sheffield United will be in another European battle this next season. Next up, then, we go to Ralph Hasenhüttl. And what team does he manage? Well, it's basic. I'll give you guys the answer already. It is Southampton. Now, Southampton, they've made some good signings, I'm not going to lie. But this season, I'm going to predict them to finish. I'm going to give them a 13th place finish. That's what I'm going to go with, a 13th place. Now, I say 13th because I think that Southampton will be in a European battle maybe towards the December mark, but I think what we're looking at here potentially is a fall away at the wayside with about, you know, 5 to 10 games to go rather than a couple of games. And, you know, looking again, you got Walker Peters on a permanent from Tottenham. Obviously, we know Højbjerg's gone the other way to Tottenham, you know, and Walker Peters has come in to Southampton from Tottenham. Salisu, good underrated defender there from Real Valladolid. They've transferred some players out as well. Obviously, Hansen to Staybeck, Reed to Fulham, Alfie Jones to Hull City. They've loaned out Lamina to Fulham, El Yunusi to Celtic. Obviously, Tyreek Johnson's gone to America to play for Hartford Athletic. They've released Cedric to Arsenal, Yoshida to Sampdoria. Other players like Marcus Barnes hasn't got a club. Jack Rose has gone to Walsall. So, some noticeable outs there and some noticeable ins. But I think that Salisu could be a good defender. Walker Peters on a permanent deal could be good. Højbjerg, of course, losing him is a big risk because, of course, Southampton have lost a key player in their midfield. So they're going to have to try and build around that. But I think Southampton did show signs. I think the turning point last season was that 9-0 defeat to Leicester, the record defeat to Leicester at the St Mary's Stadium. I think that, you know, back when that happened, I think I was fully expecting Hasenhüttl to get sacked, but they backed him and he turned it round and he got him a decent finish last season. So hopefully Southampton can go again, but I think it is going to be a mid-table finish, a nice healthy mid-table finish. And yeah, I think this is going to be just an alright mid-table finish in my opinion for Southampton, but I've no doubt they will improve under the management of Ralph Hasenhüttl. Next up, Tottenham Hotspur, and this one's been an interesting one. I'm going to make a bold prediction here. Tottenham fans may not like it, expressions oozing sauce may not like this, but that was my best expressions impression. Bit of a tongue twister there. I predict Tottenham to finish 11th place. Now hear me out, Tottenham fans, before you jump on the comment section. Now, I'll be fair. They have made, in terms of outs, they've sold Vertonghen to Benfica on a released contract, a free contract. Vorm's been released. Parrott's been loaned out to Millwall. He's a good young player. I don't know why they loaned him out. Ioma to Lincoln, Skip to Norwich. They're all loaned out. In terms of ins, I mean, looking at the squad, apart from a youngster from Wigan, they brought in Højbjerg, of course, for 15 million from Southampton. Joe Hart on a free after being released by Burnley, and Doherty from Wolves. Doherty's a good one. I will give you that one. Doherty's a good signing because he's a good fullback, and he's a good attacking and defensive fullback from Wolves. So I think that you got a good buy there in Doherty. Højbjerg, I think he needs a bigger club than Southampton, no disrespect, to fully embrace the midfield talents. So I think that Tottenham could be his stay. But Joe Hart, really? I mean, I know he's a multi-trophy winner as an England goalkeeper and a Man City former goalkeeper, but come on. He's past it now. And I don't say that with any kind of light because he has been successful in the past, but come on. Joe Hart, really? Is that the best you can do? Is that who's going to play ahead of Lloris? There was a big blunder in the Watford pre-season game when they lost to Championship Watford 2-1. And, you know, what? I'm sorry, but Jose Mourinho's football is not the football to take you forward. I'm sorry, it's not the football to take the club forward. And I think that Tottenham are going to be in a very, very dire season. They could have Jose Mourinho. My prediction is Mourinho will stay until Christmas, and I think Mourinho is going to get sacked at Christmas. And they're going to have a temporary manager to steer them on course for the next season. And, you know, I think why they'll finish mid-table is they may put all their eggs in the Europa League basket. And that's what I think. So, I think they'll sack Mourinho at Christmas, bring in a temporary manager. They'll go the Solskjaer route and maybe bring him in permanently if he does a good job. If not, sack him again, get the temporary manager for the end of the season, and appoint again the next summer. But I think that they'll put all the eggs in the Europa League basket to give themselves a trophy chance, because I don't think they're going to win the league. Absolutely no chance. They're not going to win the FA Cup. They're not going to win the EFL Cup, and I'm being brutally honest here. I think that Spurs' track record with Mourinho is bad. Well, not bad, but bad. I think it's bad, and I think Mourinho will get sacked by Christmas. That's my official statement prediction for this season. Mourinho will get sacked by Christmas. So I think that we're looking at a high mid-table finish for Tottenham, and I don't say that with any kind of, you know, happiness. I'm sure for Tottenham fans out there, but it's just my opinion. Comment down below if you think differently. Next up, the final of the promoted sides in this season, and that is, of course, West Brom. Under the management of former West Ham manager Slaven Bilic, bring them up in second place ahead of Brentford in that final day race. They brought in Diangana from West Ham, Kipre from Wigan, Button from Brighton, Mateus Pereira from Sporting on a permanent deal. That's really good. They've loaned out a couple of their youngsters. Morton's gone to Lincoln, so has Alex Palmer. They've sold some players. Ali Al-Habsi, the veteran goalkeeper's gone. Ferguson to Palace, of course. Fitzwater to Livingston. Kane Wilson to Forest Green. Lecco to Birmingham. Gareth Barry's retired. So there's a lot of talent gone. But I think, again, West Brom, I think they're going to be all right, you know. I'm going to go with a 17th place finish. I'm going to go with the 17th. I think they'll just survive. But I think that it will be a tough battle. I think it will be a tough battle, in my opinion. And I think that, you know, what we're looking at here is a West Brom side trying to settle back into the Premier League. And I think Bilic has got the side capable to just keep this club up. And I think, again, they'll be in the relegation battle with Newcastle, Aston Villa, Fulham for those last two relegation spaces. Brighton and Crystal Palace may be dark outsiders, but I think they'll be safe by then. So West Brom, I think that they'll be safe. They'll be safe in my opinion, and I think that, you know, they'll be all right for another season in the Premier League the next season. Let's go on to another West club now. Not of course in the West, but of course it's in London. It is West Ham United. Now, West Ham United fans, you may be shocked to hear this, but I predict you to finish bottom of the league, 20th in the league. Now, the reason why I say that is your board. I'm sorry, your board just doesn't get it. Your board is going to drag you into the Championship with the highest capacity stadium in second-tier football history. Overall, not just, you know, the EFL era of the Championship. Not even just the Football League. Not even the Coca-Cola era of the Championship. I'm talking second-tier history. I'm talking football divisions 1, 2, 3 and 4 history. We're talking all-time football history. You're going to have the highest capacity second-tier stadium in football history. Because all you've brought in is Soucek on a permanent, which I'll give you credit for that. That's a good one. I think Soucek showed some good signs on loan, so I think that him permanently is good, but he's going into a bad atmosphere in my opinion. Look at the sales they've got. Ngakia, highly rated youngster, Watford, free transfer. Ajeti, sold to Celtic. Hugill to Norwich. Diangana to West Brom, despite Moyes saying he's in the plans. Roberto on a free transfer to Real Valladolid. I'm sorry, some of the flip-flops, like Anderson, Yarmolenko, Haller, Diop, I think that they're going to flop again this year, and I think that West Ham are in trouble this year. If they prove me wrong, fair enough, but I think West Ham are going to finish bottom of the league this year, and I don't say that with any kind of confidence, because I feel sorry for the West Ham fans. That's the only people I feel sorry for, and the players, of course, sometimes. But I don't feel sorry for Gold, Sullivan, Brady, and in the words of Lord Sugar, you're fired, or you should be fired. Finally, Wolverhampton Wanderers and Nuno Espirito Santo, and of course there's only one position that is left in the table, and that, my friends, is 12th place. Wolves will be in a fight for Europe, but I think that other people will just do better than them, and I don't say that lightly because they've got a good squad. My prediction could be wrong. I mean, I was originally going to predict Wolves to finish 11th and Tottenham 12th, but I kind of sort of flip-flopped and just decided on the spot. They brought in some good players. Fabio Silva from Porto, good young striker for the future. The Portuguese Mbappe, I like to call him sometimes. Marcel, good experienced defender from Lyon there. But they've sold some good players, in their side. John to Doncaster on a permanent was a big one for me as a Donny fan. I never saw that coming. Doherty to Tottenham, that's a big loss. Helder Costa to Leeds, that's a big loss. That's a good squad player to have. And he's a good quick player to have. Gibbs White loaned out to Swansea, that's an interesting one. One of their signings, Tote Gomez, that's been brought into under-23s, he's been loaned out to Grasshopper till the end of the season. So obviously he'll be getting some loan experience first of all, just to help him settle into the club a bit more. But, like I said, Wolves will be in a fight for Europe, but I think, again, they'll just slip at the final hurdle. So that's how I think it'll go in terms of Wolves' season. But that doesn't say I don't think they have a great squad or a good manager. I think Wolves have a fantastic squad. I think this season might just be an off year where, you know, all the clubs do better, and I think that Wolves might just slip a little bit in a few times. But I think it will be close in Europe. I think it will be close because some good teams in there. And along with the addition of Leeds and Everton's continued growth, I think there's a real struggle for European competition this year. So there we go. I'm out of breath reading all that knowledge. And by the way, can I just point out, by the way, and I want to use this evidence, right? I'm going to get this up right now on my phone to prove to you guys how much I know about football. All I've done is read off my predictions on there. That's all I've done. See that there? All my predictions are on there. All my knowledge that I spoke about those teams is from past experience knowledge. And, you know, I think that, you know, it's good to recap yourself over the previous season and to sort of judge your predictions on that pattern. But as you saw by my predictions, there's a lot of teams in trouble this year. Excuse me. West Ham, major trouble for them in my opinion. Couple of digressions here and there. A couple of places haven't changed from the previous season's finish. A couple of big progressions. Obviously Leeds United getting close to Europe. Top four being the likes of Chelsea, Liverpool, Man City, and then Arsenal getting in there. AFTV are going to be happy with this prediction. Man U, I think they'll just fall out the wayside. I think Van der Beek's a good sign, but I think it is still not enough to improve. I think that Ollie's going to be the scapegoat for that. Because the ball should have backed him in the summer. And I hope the ball go, in my opinion, from a Man U point of view. But there we go. So that is my Premier League predictions. Now, of course, I recorded this the previous day, or the previous couple of days. So this will be released, obviously, when you're watching it. So the next day, tomorrow, when you're watching this, that is when the Championship predictions will be up. And then League 1, League 2, and then Benarama National League. And then we're looking at more detail into their acquisitions as well. So, Thank you very, very much, guys, for watching this video. I am the CHALL, your sports channel. Don't forget, guys, make sure you like the video if you loved it. Comment down below your thoughts. Click the notification bell so you never miss a YouTube video. Make sure you subscribe as well. Subscribe to my Instagram, my Snapchat, my Twitter and my TikTok in the description down below, as well as my second channel, Coast to Chall, Theme Park Journalism. Nearly at 2,000 subscribers and 500,000 views across all the videos, so we're getting close on that. Thank you very much, guys. Thank you and goodbye.